Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of On Average MD. Listen, I have had such a pleasure to be a guest on Dr. Ruth Thornton, MD, who is a PNMNR specialist, that I decided to share it with you. What you're going to learn is after we go through, my history, but very quickly, you're going to learn what it means for me to be a rheumatologist and to care for my patients. Even if you do not intend or if you're not one of my patients, listen because I think that there's a lot to learn from this. There's a lot of hope. And as usual, this is On Average MD, which means hope driven by science. And you're going to see what it means. So enjoy the episode and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hi. So let's talk about a unique approach to rheumatology. I'm Dr. Ruth, the pain doc, founder of Chronic Pain Rescue, a telehealth practice dedicated to partnering with you to get you from chronic pain to pain-free. Our very, very special guest today is Dr. Isabel Amigues. I'm so excited. She's doing great things in the great state of Colorado. And so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Ruth.
Yes. So I know your patients love you. I've heard about, how they sought you out, when you left to start your own practice. I just wanted to give the audience, I guess, some background about you. I know you had a very serious illness a few years ago, and what happened? I guess I'll just let you to explain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So basically, a little bit before my 40th birthday, I became very depressed, very sad. I think I was in what we call a crisis. And so my birthday was on on March 13, and it was Snowmageddon. There was so much snow that we couldn't do anything. And it really felt like my feelings were exactly where my birthday looked like, basically like in the middle of the bed, not able to do much, not having fun. And 2 weeks later, I took a shower to cry because I was not feeling very good. And I saw a huge tumor on my right breast that had nothing to do there. And it was so big that I started thinking of all the other possibilities that this could be. So, my first thought was like, this is cancer. And then I was like, no, it cannot be. It cannot be. And so, started like just thinking of all of the different possibilities. And it was cancer. And it had spread to the liver and the bone. And that was actually the moment I got out of this crisis. And I started discovering what I wanted for my life and what I was going to do and how I was going to, like, if I wanted to stay in this life or not. And it was really like a wake-up call. And I discovered meditation, visualization, as well as a lot of different techniques that are more, I almost want to say Eastern medicine, Eastern principle. And during that time, I was being healed. I underwent chemo and all of the Western thing, but I had this really Eastern medicine approach with guides and coaches and so on that actually really helped me feel empowered in my healing, and not just like, otherwise you see your oncologist 3 times, so every 3 or 4 months. You're lucky if you see a nurse practitioner in between, and you're going for your chemo every 3 weeks, but that's about it, right? Like in between there's nothing. And those coaches really were helping me like meditate, visualize, maybe do some energy healing. And there was a lot of fighting, but it's not the fighting you would expect. It wasn't a fighting against the cancer. It was a fighting that was going on in my brain with my left brain and my right brain. My left brain was like, this is BS. What are you doing? And my right brain was like, well, it's actually helping you. It's actually giving you power. It's like you are clearly improved. Your mental health is improved. Even your physical health is improved. And so during the whole journey, I had this fight, but I didn't actually go and to research those studies because I did not want to get rid of the possible placebo effect. So I was like, maybe this is all placebo and that's fine. I'm going to take the placebo effect, which is, about 30%. And I was like, I don't want to look at studies that are going to say that those things don't work. So I did not look at any studies. And once I was in remission, like, cancer is completely gone, that is when, small, like step by step, I started looking at the data behind all of this. And because I'm a rheumatologist, I looked at data for rheumatology patients. So I took the rheumatoid arthritis, which is very well defined. And I was blown away because I was expecting that those things don't work. Or like I was thinking that the science is not going to back us up.
Right.
Turns out the science backed them up. And I remember I was like, I want to do a study on visualization. And well, I couldn't do a study on visualization because it was already done and redone and redone. Like so many studies have been done, and there's been randomized control trial and meta-analysis for visualization in rheumatoid arthritis. And I was blown away. And there is also in meditation, and there is all of those things. And so then I went on this path of research, which is like, I'm going to read about this because why is it that I don't know about that? And why is it that, I love my Western drugs. And I think biologics have changed the life of my patients.
Right.
But like, I know about every single biologic that comes out. I don't know about this meditation research. I didn't know about this, I know now, but I did not know about the meditation research or about the visualization research. And now I'm bringing this, and basically I realized that I felt very constricted in my practice in the previous institution I was at. And I was like, well, I've gone too close from death to not live a life where I'm going to be this doctor that I want to be. And so I just created this practice where I have the time to really go deep with my patients,
right,
and really create this relationship of the patient and the physician, which is healing. And there's studies also on that, and like super good studies. And so I was like, yeah, I want to be. And at first I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to be the placebo. Then I was like, no, I'm going to be the healer, because clearly there are studies that are showing that you heal patients if you have a good relationship with your patients. Right. So I opened on average MD, and we're 6 months. And I already see the difference for my patients. I already see how they are doing better. And I don't think, it's just that it's less constricted. I have more than 1 hour for my patients when I see them first. So I have time. And I have more than 30 minutes for my follow-ups. And then I have all of those calls that I can take because I don't have to bill them, right? Because it's direct care practice. And so then I have more time with my patients. And we talk about meditation, we talk about visualization, and we also talk about Western medicine, because that, is also very powerful. But so that's where I am right now. I'm very excited. And the goal is to have to open a center of hope. And it's what I call hope driven by science, which is, just the outcome of a visit with a physician to me is hope. So that, a patient comes in and they have, so-and-so issues that does not let them live the life that they are meant to live. And my job is to reassure them, prevent anything bad from happening, and most of all, to provide them hope so that they know that they can go to remission. Because that's the outcome in rheumatology. There should be remission.
Oh, that's great to hear. So someone would come to you for biologics, you would incorporate that, or you do you
absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So it depends. I can tell you, so I have this really interesting patient right now, and he has all of the signs of someone that should be on a biologic. So he has high rheumatoid factor, high CCP. Those are two markers of rheumatoid arthritis. And usually people who have high CCP, they usually tend to have more erosion. In fact, he has erosion on the x-rays. What's funny, though, is that we started him on methotrexate. That's the first time. Usually insurances ask us to start that first. And I do it because, up to 2/3 of the population actually responds to just that. And I told them, I said, you may really need a biologic sooner rather than later. Well, he's actually incorporated all of those things, which is like he meditates, he exercises, he eats very healthy. And here he is in almost full remission after only 2 months of methotrexate. I was a little bit puzzled by this because that's not, again, it's a fairly new practice. And so I don't have a ton of experience with this fairly new practice. But yeah, so normally my patients, it takes about 3 months to really work for methotrexate. And very often those patients, they would have needed a biologic. Well, he's most likely not going to need a biologic. I already see him and I already see such improvement. If he does need, I will absolutely. I mean, the goal is remission. The goal is no more joint pain, no more swelling, no more morning stiffness. And I will fight to get there. But I mean, not fight, I'm not fighting, but I will make sure that we are getting there.
Yes.
But I don't think he's going to need it. And, to me, like, this is one story of, even when you think that, they feel all of those criteria that they are most likely going to need it, if you do other stuff that are, in addition to maybe the methotrexate, you actually do much better.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. So besides rheumatoid arthritis, what are the other diagnoses that people, if they have those diagnoses, they should come see you?
Oh yeah, well, so many. So it's basically anything that's inflammatory in the body and that causes systemic. So systemic means like all of your body issues. So, the big one is rheumatoid arthritis, spondyloarthropathy, which includes ankylosing spondylitis. That's an inflammatory back pain. And you probably see some of patients like that. Psoriatic arthritis, which actually can present without psoriasis, which I always think is fascinating. Scleroderma, which is a condition that, first affects the skin, most of the time affects the skin, and it's like tightening of the skin, but actually can affect the lungs, the heart, the vessel. And that's, very important to have a very good doctor that can take care of you. We also see lupus patients. So lupus, again, is very inflammatory, very systemic, so really can touch all of the organs. And gout, pseudo-gout, again, inflammation, autoinflammatory syndrome, such as Steve's disease, which is like a lot of inflammation in your body, causes issue, can actually cause organs to shut down, and other type of autoinflammatory syndrome, such as familial Mediterranean fever. And, if you ask me, I've been really like thinking about where am I, like, what's my zone of genius? I'm realizing I find myself finding a lot of patients who have seen many other rheumatologists and just didn't go anywhere. And they see me, and this is before even this practice, right? And I had never realized, because before I think I was in a tertiary center, so it actually made sense to me that people were coming and seeking a 5th or 7th or 8th opinion. But in this new practice, I'm realizing that it's just the same, and that I get my patients to remission. I used to get them to remission then, and I still get them to remission. And I really think it's just that I have a different approach. I'm both trained in France, so very clinically oriented training. And I was a rheumatologist in France. And I'm trained at Columbia University, where there was a lot of research involved. So then you like take both. And so I feel very confident in the fact that in rheumatology, we aim for remission. And so I feel like patients who have a rheumatologic disorder that is not in remission, they should seek out medical treatment. Either they want to see me, that's fine. I would love that. But if they want to see someone else, that's totally fine. But they should not settle for less than remission. And that's a big deal for me.
That sounds great. I'm just wondering, for those people who are, they're adverse to medications. It's funny. My mom's a pediatrician, but she's really wary of the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. People who say, I really want a holistic approach. They don't want. I mean, I'm sure you'd work with them, but how quickly would you expect if they're like anti-drugs? How I don't know if you've had anybody that's like that, but
of course.
Yeah.
Well, so I think the job of a doc is to educate their patients But at the end of the day, the patient has to buy in on the idea of a drug. And I think it's super clear to me that you have to educate them in here is where you're coming from, this is what's happening. You have joint pain, or you have inflammation of the eyes, or you have inflammation of the lungs. Okay. And the goal is remission. And if we can achieve remission with natural holistic practices, I'm fine. Okay. But the goal is full remission.
Right.
And what's really interesting is I've seen patients where they had given up on medicine, and they had almost given up on rheumatologists because they were like, yeah, they only want to shove medication into me. And we tried things, but I always ask some patients, right? Like I always ask them, I'm like, now that you know that the goal is remission, because I teach them about all of the complications related to an unfully treated, disease, right? And so then I'm like, now that you know about the risk of this condition, right? Let's look at the risk of the medications. And let's, now really properly look at both side effects, the side effects of an untreated rheumatologic disorder and the side effects of the medication that I would like to potentially give you.
Right.
And then tell me what you want. Right. And it's really, really interesting to me to see the response, because most of the time, and I just had one like last week, erosive RA. So that in this case, it's a rheumatoid arthritis, erosive. She's seen several rheumatologists in the past, and the rheumatologists were really upset at her. I mean, this is crazy. Like, to me, that's a little bit crazy, because you should not be upset at your patient. But they were, flustered, and for whatever reason. And so they were like, yeah, whatever, like just come back when you are ready to start treatment. And I'm like, okay, well, how about did we take the time to explain what's happening and, to explain the medication? So to your mom, she's a pediatrician and maybe not a rheumatologist. And so my approach is like, let me teach you about rheumatology. And the truth is, we can give 2 months or 3 months to a holistic approach. The truth is, at the end of the day, when you really think about it, what are our drugs doing? Our drugs are helping our bodies to go back into balance. That doesn't mean that a natural way is not going to get there. Meditation decreases the inflammation. Visualization decreases the inflammation. There are some patients that have healed their cancer with natural ways. I'm not going to take that chance. I did not take that chance. Right. But for me, it was like, I'm not going to say no to the holistic way, but I'm also not going to say no to the Western medicine. Right. I want both. I want both, because both I can have a better life. And that's what I did. And so to someone like your mom, I'm like, why would you say no to the Western medicine if the natural way doesn't get you to remission? Right. If it does, then absolutely go for it. I'm supportive of that. In fact, I embrace it myself. But if you do not, then let's talk, because there are ways to get you into balance. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be on it for the rest of your life.
That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always try to get the least amount of it, like if it's immunosuppression, to get the least amount of immunosuppression to get to full remission. I mean, if you think about it, prednisone is going to get people to remission. But we also hate prednisone because it has a ton of side effects.
Yes.
And so we don't want people to stay on prednisone. But I think that's this conversation with the patient that has to be very clear. It comes back to people who want to continue smoking. I used to smoke, so I know how amazing it was. And I was in a pulmonary hospital, and so I've had many patients who had not been able to quit before they met me and who quit. I have a patient who was for 30 years a smoker and quit. Wow. I have another one for 50 years and quit. Those are like 2 examples. And, the pulmonary doc would be like, what did Dr. Ami told you that allowed you to quit? And they're like, oh, she told me that she loves smoking. And so it's like getting the patient to where you are, which is like, okay, why do you want to smoke? Why do you want to only, not take, something like,
Mm-hmm.
where are you in this process? And if not taking a drug, if continuing to smoke causes harm, are you going to let this happen? And so this is really a conversation to have with the patient, which is like, where do you want to be? And
Mm-hmm.
where are you right now? And
Right.
then let's talk about what can I help you with at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
and long term, to get to your full health, because that's at the end of the day, that's where it is. And I think the same way that people had to realize that when they are smoking, they like it. And
Mm-hmm.
so because they like it, it's not someone that's going to tell them you need to stop smoking. It's just not going to do it. The same way
Mm-hmm.
that if I were to say you need a biologic agent, it's just not going to be enough.
Right.
You need to be like, okay, well, what do you like in smoking, and what is the health outcome you want? And I have some patients in France who would tell me, I do not care if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to die of lung cancer. I don't care if I'm going to die of COPD, emphysema, I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
like smoking too much. And to those, I was like, enjoy it.
Right. Right. I
Enjoy it.
got
And
you.
it's the same thing with, I don't care if my life is going to be miserable with my rheumatoid arthritis, my lupus, my scleroderma, whatever, right? Like I'm too afraid of biologic agents. I'm too afraid of
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceuticals. And then you start the conversation and you're like, okay, hold on. Do you know about the side effect of this? Do you know? And then later on, you're like, do you realize you have a choice?
Right.
Because at the end
Right.
of the day, you always have a choice. And so that's where I love my job. I mean, it's not a job. Like I love
And
what I
yeah,
do.
you know
Yeah.
what? It's your calling. Yeah, it's your calling.
Yeah.
How can people now? You're licensed in Colorado. I'm correct, right? How
Yes.
can people reach you? They want to work
Yeah.
with you. They have a family member, someone they know that needs to come see you. How can they reach you?
So I have a practice called Unabridged MD. Currently, it's in rheumatology, and so it's Unabridged MD. And it's the reason for Unabridged is that it's the full version of the physician. So you get everything about me. And then it's also the full version of the patients. And I'm not looking at just one part. It's like the non-edited version of the patient. So you come fully to me and I'm coming fully to you. And I have a podcast called Unabridged MD. If you have a rheumatologic disorder, I just started a YouTube channel called Rheumatology 101, where I'm going to basically, when I have a question from a patient, I'm going to create a little video so that you can learn from, just in rheumatology, just because I love it so much. Rheumatology 101 on YouTube. It's really new. I think it has a week. And you can contact me at info@unabridgedmd.com, or you can go on our website, unabridgedmd.com. And then there's also the social media. But yeah, Unabridged MD, that's what it is.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been really great, inspiring. In fact, I'm really glad that we got to do this today. All
Yes,
right.
absolutely. Thank you
Till
so
next
much.
time, everyone. Peace and blessings.